What if the one song that defined your family's legacy was too painful to ever sing again? For Barry Gibb, there is one specific hit he refuses to perform on stage, and the reason behind his silence is absolutely heart-wrenching. Welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into the tragic, beautiful, and utterly heartbreaking story of the final surviving member of one of the greatest musical dynasties in human history. We all know the shimmering disco anthems. We know the dazzling white suits, the iconic medallions, and the soaring falsettos that practically defined the 1970s and changed the landscape of pop culture forever. But beneath the glittering surface of the Bee Gees lies a harrowing story of survivors' guilt, unimaginable loss, and a musical silence that speaks volumes louder than any chart-topping platinum record. Why does a man who has written an astonishing 16 number-one hits, a songwriting record surpassed only by Paul McCartney and John Lennon, refuse to sing the very melodies that cemented his status as a living legend? To truly understand Barry Gibb's refusal, you have to understand the foundational architecture of the Bee Gees sound. This was never just a band of highly skilled session musicians who happened to meet in a recording studio. This was a family. Barry, the eldest, alongside the fraternal twins, Maurice and Robin, and later their youngest brother, Andy, possessed something exceedingly rare in the fiercely competitive music industry. They possessed a phenomenon scientifically and musically known as blood harmony. When siblings sing together, their vocal cords, shaped by the exact same genetic blueprint, the same bone structure in their faces, and the same resonant cavities, vibrate in a way that creates a single, superhuman voice. It is a biological magic trick that you simply cannot artificially replicate with strangers, no matter how much digital tuning or modern studio trickery you apply. For decades, that flawlessly blended voice conquered the globe. From Saturday Night Fever dominating the cultural zeitgeist to soulful ballads like How Deep Is Your Love, the Bee Gees were an unstoppable force of nature, moving over 220 million records worldwide. But the universe has a remarkably cruel way of balancing extraordinary, stratospheric success with agonizing, grounding tragedy. Over a brutally relentless span of 3 decades, Barry watched helplessly as every single one of his younger brothers was taken from him. Andy died tragically in 1988 at just 30 years old from myocarditis, exacerbated by years of struggles with addiction and the pressures of fame. Maurice passed away suddenly and shockingly in 2003 due to complications from a twisted intestine. And finally, Robin succumbed to a long, grueling battle with cancer in 2012. Barry was left standing completely alone in the spotlight. The oldest brother, the natural protector of the pack, was the only one left alive to carry the immense, crushing weight of their legacy. Imagine, for a second, standing on a brightly lit stage in front of 80,000 screaming, adoring fans. The opening synthesizer chords of a timeless classic ring out through the massive stadium speakers. The crowd erupts into a state of sheer euphoria. But for you, the performer, something is terribly, fundamentally broken. The microphone stands positioned to your immediate left and right. The exact spots that for 40 years were occupied by your brothers are now completely, hauntingly empty. This is the harrowing daily reality for Barry Gibb. In the intricate world of audio engineering and vocal performance, there is a concept we can refer to as the ghost harmony. For a singer who has spent their entire developmental and professional life harmonizing with specific voices, their brain is literally hardwired to expect those corresponding frequencies. When Barry opens his mouth to hit a note, his neurological pathways anticipate Maurice's perfect, grounding pitch right below him and Robin's ethereal, haunting vibrato soaring high above him. When those voices fail to arrive, it creates a visceral, psychological shock to the nervous system. It isn't merely an emotional trigger of sadness, it is an auditory hallucination of absence. In deeply intimate interviews, Barry has described this sensation as entirely paralyzing. He has admitted that he still hears their voices echoing in the studio control room. He still feels their tangible presence in the quiet, breathless moments between verses. Performing live isn't just a matter of remembering the lyrics or hitting the right tempo. It is an agonizing, real-time exercise in confronting the massive void they left behind. He is essentially singing into a vacuum. For a man who defined his entire existence not as a solo artist, but as one irreducible third of a collective soul, being forced to sing alone is like being asked to walk effortlessly on a shattered leg. The survivor's guilt is mathematically astronomical. Why did the oldest brother, the one who nature dictates should naturally go first, outlive them all? This intense, suffocating guilt fundamentally altered his relationship with his own songbook. And it brings us to the very core of his musical refusal. But right here is where the story takes a dark, unexpected, and truly profound turn. You might logically think Barry simply avoids the physically demanding, upbeat disco hits because of his age, or perhaps he steers clear of tracks that require the highest, most straining falsettos. But you would be entirely wrong. The truth is far more chilling, and it reveals a hidden layer of the Bee Gees' legacy. The specific songs Barry Gibb physically cannot bring himself to sing are the ones that deal explicitly with eternity, loss, and the cruel jokes of fate. And there is one massive, paradigm-shifting secret about his final promise to Robin on his deathbed that changes exactly how you will listen to their music forever. This is the moment everything you thought you knew about pop music's greatest survivors shatters. The absolute core of Barry's refusal centers around a deeply documented psychological phenomenon known as survivor's syndrome, heavily amplified by the relentless glare of the public eye. Let's look at the specific tracks that act as emotional tripwires. One of the most haunting pieces in the entire Bee Gees catalog is the sweeping epic Immortality, a track the brothers originally wrote for Celine Dion. The lyrics boldly speak of leaving an indelible mark on the world, of a fierce love and a defiant spirit that flatly refuses to die. When all three brothers were alive and well, performing it alongside Celine, it was a triumphant ballad, a monumental testament to their enduring success and creative power. But now, as the sole survivor, those exact same lyrics have mutated into a cruel, agonizing taunt. To stand on a stage alone and sing about immortality while literally carrying the ashes of your three younger brothers is a psychological burden no artist should ever have to bear. Barry has openly wept, his voice completely giving out when the melody to the song even begins to play in rehearsal. But the ultimate refusal, the specific song that creates the deepest, most unhealable wound, is Robin Gibb's signature, melancholy masterpiece, I Started a Joke. This was a song that Robin owned entirely, both in spirit and in execution. It was his defining vocal performance, a haunting, vibrato-heavy exploration of isolation, misunderstanding, and cosmic irony. For Barry to step up to the center microphone and sing the devastating lyrics, I Started a Joke, which started the whole world crying, but I didn't see that the joke was on me, is simply fundamentally impossible. It feels like an act of betrayal. It's like stepping on a sacred grave. Barry outright refuses to sing Robin's iconic leads because, in his mind, those songs died the exact moment his brothers took their last breaths. He will not artificially appropriate their solos just to sell concert tickets or appease nostalgic fans. He draws a hard, impenetrable line between honoring their grand legacy and commercially exploiting their memory. It is an artistic boundary built out of profound love and overwhelming, suffocating. This deep-seated refusal was brought into sharp, devastating focus during the release of the highly acclaimed 2020 HBO documentary, The Bee Gees, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? The film was universally praised by critics and fans alike as a sheer masterclass in musical storytelling. It brilliantly charted the brothers' improbable rise from singing harmonized covers on the rainy streets of Manchester to the sunny docks of Australia to finally becoming the undisputed, sequin-clad kings of global pop music. But while the world collectively celebrated this cinematic triumph, Barry Gibb made a shocking, vulnerable confession to the media. He admitted that he couldn't even watch the entire film. He stated publicly, and with immense sorrow, that he could not handle watching the rest of his family. He said he was past it, and he simply did not want to see how each brother was lost. Let the immense weight of that statement sink in for a moment. The sole surviving architect of the band couldn't bear to watch his own life story unfold on screen. This speaks volumes to the intense, physical reality of grief. We as a society often incorrectly think of mourning as a temporary state, a fleeting phase that passes with the steady march of time. But for Barry, the grief is chronic, inescapable, and purely environmental. Every time he turns on the radio in his car, every time he walks into a grocery store, a shopping mall, or a cafe, there is a highly probable chance he will be suddenly ambushed by the ghosts of his dead brothers singing Night Fever or Tragedy. He is trapped in an inescapable sonic museum of his own past. Clinical psychologists frequently note that when a person experiences severe traumatic loss, actively avoiding sensory triggers becomes a primary, instinctual coping mechanism. For Barry, his own vast, world-changing discography is a literal minefield of emotional tripwires. Refusing to sing certain songs isn't just a matter of stylistic preference. It is a desperate, necessary act of psychological self-preservation. He has essentially been forced by circumstance to lock away a massive, beloved portion of his life's work in a dark vault, throwing away the key, just so he can mentally survive the day-to-day reality of being the last man standing. To fully grasp the magnitude of this dynamic, we need to carefully look at how this compares to other legendary musical acts, and why the sibling band dynamic creates a uniquely devastating aftermath. Consider the legendary Paul McCartney after the tragic, shocking murder of John Lennon in 1980. McCartney undoubtedly felt a profound, world-shattering loss, and he certainly retired certain songs for a time out of respect. But McCartney and Lennon were ultimately friends and professional collaborators. They were deeply connected, but they were not bound by genetics and a shared childhood roof. Or look at the resilient Dave Grohl after the shocking, sudden death of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain. Grohl was emotionally shattered, entirely lost for a period, but he was ultimately able to pivot, pick up a guitar, step out from behind the drum kit, and forge a completely new, massive identity with the Foo Fighters. Sibling bands are an entirely different, intensely fragile psychological ecosystem. Look at the Jackson 5 or the Beach Boys with the brilliant but tortured Wilson brothers. When a sibling band loses a member, they aren't just losing a talented lead guitarist, a charismatic frontman, or a brilliant co-writer. They are losing a piece of their very childhood. They are losing a piece of their parents. They are losing a piece of their fundamental, core identity. Barry Gibb didn't just lose his adult bandmates. He lost the little boys he shared cramped bunk beds with in England. He lost the wide-eyed teenagers he harmonized with under the Australian sun. Every single melody they ever wrote, every chord progression they ever structured, was intrinsically intertwined with their shared DNA. When Barry physically refuses to perform I Started a Joke, or when he breaks down attempting to sing Our Love Don't Throw It All Away as a painful tribute to little brother Andy, he is displaying the ultimate, heartbreaking cost of family fame. The music is so inextricably, permanently linked to the individuals that separating the art from the tragedy is a physically and emotionally impossible task. In the end, Barry Gibb's steadfast refusal to sing these defining hits is not a sign of weakness, nor is it a sign of a fading artist losing his touch. It is the exact opposite. It is the ultimate display of reverence and strength. It is a fiercely protective older brother standing guard over the sacred memory of the boys he loved vastly more than the music itself. He has willingly sacrificed his ability to perform his complete, historic catalog in order to preserve the unblemished sanctity of his brother's voices. The next time you hear a classic Bee Gees song playing on the radio or spinning on a vintage turntable, I urge you not to just blindly listen to the infectious, driving beat or the legendary falsetto hooks. Listen deeply to the intricate, impossible, interwoven blend of those three brothers. Listen to the magical blood harmony that can never, ever be organically recreated on this earth. And realize the immense, quiet, invisible strength it takes for the last surviving brother to wake up every single day, look at the gold records on his wall, and actively choose to protect their silence. If you found this deep dive into the tragic reality of the Bee Gees fascinating, you absolutely must check out our next video, where we uncover the dark, highly guarded psychological truth behind another musical legend's sudden, unexplained disappearance from the stage. The music industry hides its darkest secrets in plain sight. Click the video on your screen right now, and I will see you over there.